Well, today we're going to go through all of the names that Rob just read off and get the meanings of them, and we'll have a test afterwards. So, are y'all ready for that? I'm not either. Rob, thank you. You did a great job on that. Nothing like getting voluntold just before and then told it's all names. He did volunteer. You're right. So we're off the hook. It was all on him. But I appreciate that. You know, we get into the names and we see the lineage, and they're real careful to go step by step through the lineage. There's a reason, and I hope that reason is not that when we get to the kingdom we have to know them all before we can get in. That's all my hope is. So just to keep going today, you know, we have a good lesson or several good lessons through this whole Parsha. We're going to do a preview, and it's not this time an overview, and this time it's not because I'm going to get out of the Parsha, I'm going to stay in it, but there's so much packed in this one Parsha that it was hard to find a landing spot without really delving in, praying about it, looking and to see where the launching point would be, where we would go from. But just getting started, I'll go through these kind of quick. Jacob returns to the Holy Land after 20 years stay in Haran with his uncle Laban. He sends emissaries to Esau, who he hears is close by. Esau, the messengers come back, report that his brother is on the warpath with 400 armed men. Maybe not the warpath, but still angry with him, still put off. I kind of left warpath in there because sometimes we see adversity as total war because we forget what spiritual warfare can be. Jacob prepares for war, sends Esau a large gift consisting of hundreds of heads of livestock to appease him, and I think I left this part out, I don't know why. He also sent people ahead, servants ahead. Jacob took part of his family, split them in two, put one across the Jabbok River, and he remained behind and encountered the messenger, or angel if you prefer, but messenger with whom he wrestles until daybreak. He suffers a dislocated hip, but vanquishes the supernatural creature who bestows on him the name Israel, which means he prevails over the divine. There's so much just within that one portion of this portion. There's so much within that. And we're going to get into a little bit of that. We're going to kind of stay in that platform when we go back to the teaching. Jacob and Esau meet. They embrace and kiss. Some say that that Esau bit Jacob. But they still end up parting ways. Jacob purchased a plot of land near Shechem. Probably not the best idea for Shechem, as we remember, because the crown prince of Shechem, whose name was Shechem, abducts and rapes Jacob's daughter Dinah. Takes advantage of her when she's in the field. And Dinah's brothers Simeon and Levi avenged the deed by killing all the male inhabitants of the city, and after they rendered them vulnerable by convincing them to circumcise themselves. We did a teaching on this maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I still, every time I read across this, I remember that he must have been one heck of a salesman to talk these men for one female to marry the crown prince. Every man in the community had to be circumcised at an older and a younger age. What a salesman. You wouldn't want to meet him on the used car lot. Rachel dies while giving birth to her second son, Benjamin, and is buried in a roadside grave near Bethlehem. Reuben interferes with his father's marital life, takes one of his concubines. Jacob arrives in Hebron to his father Isaac, who later dies at 180. The Parsha concludes with detailed account of Esau's wives, children, and grandchildren, the family histories of the people of Seir, among whom Esau settled, and a list of the 8 kings who ruled Edom and the land of Esau's and Seir's descendants. That's what Rob just read for us. Big list of names. I'm sure somewhere there's a lot of lessons in that, but we're going to go away from that today. Our hope is not in who was there. Our hope lies within the fact that, as I believe, when Jacob wrestled with the messenger, I think we can agree that we're looking at that as a precarnate of Yeshua. When he wrestled with the messenger, he became a changed man. Something that we all encounter. And if you haven't encountered it yet, I implore you to quickly and effectively get in there, continue that wrestle. Continue to wrestle, continue to delve with, continue to hang on, because there is a time of change that needs to come. We're born in this world and we become a part of the world until we are set apart, till we're brought away from it. There comes an extent that we can all change our ways within ourselves. There's some goodness that we can all do. We see billionaires who we cannot say yes or no that they are believers. But the one thing they do is they do good works. They give away tons of money to help people, to help organizations, to set up hospitals, to set up medical needs, and just to do general good work with their money. But that doesn't mean that they're, if you want to say, saved or that they have salvation. It just means they're doing good deeds. What do we know that we truly have to have in the end? Works and good deeds. What are the works? The works are to recognize the Torah, recognize Yeshua, to claim that salvation and to move in that manner. If you're seeking constantly out of the Torah, aren't you going to find it? Father says, knock and he'll give. Seek and you'll find. It's not that it's so hidden, it's that we allow it to stay hidden. We'll cover it with our own needs, our own wants, our own beliefs, our own thoughts. And we forget about that transformation that has to take place. And we look at Jacob, and this is a beautiful story of transformation. When we start seeing just how he goes from who he was, who he became under Laban. Now remember, he was a manipulator, Jacob, and he met the master manipulator. The master manipulator took him through the ringer, so to speak. Took everything that he thought he could have and changed it. But every time he changed it, as we spoke in last week's sermon or teaching, every time Laban changed the rules, what happened? Yah changed the outcome. Every time. You can have the spotted ones. He'd look out and say, oh, well, last time he got all the solid color. I'm going to take the spotted this time. It's time for the spotted ones. And it would change. Yah would manipulate the situation. And that's what we have hope for today in our lives. That Yah will continue no matter what our adversary does. Now, we know who the main adversary is. But we also know that we have physical adversaries here that are trying to change our view each and every day. We see that Satan, the adversary, Hasatan, will bring people into our lives that try to tell us we're doing the wrong thing. That the law doesn't matter anymore. That big fuzzy blanket of grace is going to get you into the kingdom, and that's not true. Jacob could have sailed on everything he had. Did Yah bless him before the transformation when he was still Jacob? When he was still in his old ways? Absolutely. Absolutely. He was blessed with material things. But there comes a point when we have to be seeking that spiritual blessing. That one spiritual blessing that will continue to carry us. And we're going to look at this transformation moment for Jacob. We're looking at a time when, so you can see why the brother would be angry on that point. The blessing then for the firstborn would have been double the inheritance. So he was Esau would have been looking also at not just, yes, ma'am. What? Let
Double the inheritance also meant double the responsibility.
Yes.
Because they were supposed to take care of the rest of the family. That's the reason what they had double the inheritance.
The double
Yeah.
wasn't just for them, it was to carry on the legacy, the family, the house of. And when we say the house of, not just the physical structure, but the lands, the flocks, and everything that would go with it. Continue to keep the name in a good standing. But, excuse me, but we look at this as just like a living pattern that we all deal with each and every day. We're given that as a disciple of Yeshua, we're given that as a pattern to show us that walk of obedience, to do the right thing. Yeshua said very simply, if you love me, keep my commandments. What were his commandments? The commandments that the Father gave, and nothing more. Nothing more. So we have to, in looking at that, we're going to look at the writings in the gospel, the apostolic writings from Romans, Ephesians. We're going to jump back into Proverbs, and we're going to see how this walk of Jacob's, the transformation, is highlighted throughout the Word. That it's not just a once and done thing. He had to continue that walk and that belief system. It's not a once and done deal. How great would it be if we could have that once saved, always saved? Wouldn't that be nice? Take care of that stuff when you're a young kid and then it follows you the rest of your life. It's an everyday challenge and an everyday continuous work to get through that. So we're going to look at how Jacob redeems the time that he has lost. We're going to look at the renewing of his mind, how he begins to his walk in wisdom, how he put off the old and put on the new, and the act of overcoming evil with good. That's the one thing that is a challenge, I believe, in all of our lives. Overcoming evil with good. Because, man, when something bad happens to us, what do we want to do? We want to let that stew within us. We want to take over. We want revenge on our terms. How about Jonah when he sat up on the hill underneath the gourd? All he wanted to do is see Yah destroy Nineveh. And he was angry that Yah wasn't going to destroy Nineveh. He said, I came all the way here for this. They repented, and you're not going to do it. Yah watched them and allowed them to repent, much to the chagrin of Jonah. And just like Jonah, we take that anger and that revenge upon ourselves sometimes. We want to see our enemies crushed, not finding salvation. We want to see them crushed. And that's not always going to happen. We need to overcome evil with good. And we're going to see how in Jacob's life, his transformation into becoming Israel. I'm not talking about the nation. I'm talking about the man who wrestled with Yah and overcame. Who wrestled with, think about this, he had to wrestle with himself also. It was not just overcoming the messenger, but he had to overcome himself. And in our lives, overcoming ourselves is probably one of the largest battles we're going to face. I know I'll speak for myself. Overcoming myself was one of the largest battles that I had to face. I realized once that I could make sure I broke down some of that pride and some of that male bravado, that I could let Yah handle the things that happened. And just like Jacob, he had gone through life being able to manipulate a situation. And now suddenly, he was on his own, seemingly. He had to start trusting in that higher power, in that Father who cares. Now he's returning home, going to Haran after 20 years, 20 plus years. And he hears that Esau's approaching with 400 men. This is the man who promised to kill him. He said, as soon as my father passes, I'm going to kill him. He didn't mince words. He didn't say, I might go do something to him. He said, I'm going to kill him. And Jacob is wrestling with that fact, and he is terrified. 32:8 says he became extremely afraid and distressed. And we see that this fear of his brother had him separating what Yah had blessed him with. And man, sometimes we'll let the enemy tell us that he's going to destroy our lives, and we'll start packing away the blessings. We'll put them behind us. We'll turn our backs to them in hopes that we can come back to them, instead of holding on to what Yah has given us and going out in the truth and the promise that we have. But he became afraid and distressed. Does anyone blame him? This is his brother who was a man of the field, a great hunter. How many people have hunted? Is that really an easy task? I mean, do you make a kill? Do you make do you get a trophy every time you go out? Not every time. But Esau was good at it. He was very good at it. And his brother says, if he can kill a wild animal, what am I? Paraphrasing. That's not written that he said that. But that would be my fear. He's good at this. This is what he does. Plus he has 400 men of war. It didn't say he had 400 men who were hanging out with him. Men who fought for him. He had to have people who would take care of his clan as he moved through the wilderness, as he moved through the desert areas. There were not always good people. You didn't have a sheriff around every corner. You didn't have someone to protect you around every corner. But what we see in this, we're going to see that fear brings one of the most honest prayers we're going to see in Scripture. When we look at Genesis 32, 9 through 12, he's actually unloading his heart. He's actually speaking out of fear and out of stress and out of hope that the Father remembers what he promised him. Right now, he's out of schemes. He's out of ways to manipulate. He's already manipulated his brother once. Is he going to let it happen again? He's out of the tricks that he would normally do. And at this point, he's out of any control of the situation that he thought he had. And he's having to look and see that his life could come to an end at this point. He was afraid not only his life, but Esau would strike all of those who were in his family. All of those that were with him. And this is exactly where God wanted him. Have you ever been to a point to where Yah puts you in a place that you just are out of hope? Where Yah lets you get in your own understanding. The Word tells us not to rely on our own understanding. But Yah will let us get there until there's only one place we can look, and that's up to Him. That's back into His Torah to see what words He's given us. This prayer, we'll start at 9. If Esau comes to one camp and strikes it, the camp that's left will escape. And he turns to Yah at that point and he says, O Elohim of my father Abraham and Elohim of my father Isaac, Yahweh, and he reminds God what the promise was. He said, you spoke to me, or you said to me, return to your land and to your relatives, and I will do good for you. I am unworthy of all the proofs of mercy and of all the dependability that you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed over this Jordan, and now have become 2 camps. Deliver me, please, from my brother's hand, from Esau's hand, for I am afraid of him, that he will come and strike me, the mothers with the children. He had to get honest with Yah and with himself. He left with nothing. He left in a hurry, left from his homeland, left from his family, from a secure area amongst his father's people, and went with a staff only, and now he's a great company that can be split into two camps. So he would have somewhere else to turn, but he realizes it's not in his control. Yes, ma'am. We're going to keep Kevin busy today. I just have that feeling.
Just keep it over here.
Yeah, the two camps, I think that's so significant because it's Ephraim, Israel, and Judah, so that is like a shadow,
Yes.
a type of the two camps, that eventually Israel,
Amen.
it just worked out that way, so, yeah.
Amen. So what we see here is we see Jacob wrestling at this point with himself. He now has a realization that it's not up to him. The physical aspect of his very life depended on the blessings that Yah promised him. He said, "You've told me to come back, and now I'm fighting this battle. I have this adversary between me and where I'm supposed to be. What now?" How many times have we been in that situation to where we're suddenly wrestling with ourselves, and then the night comes, the darkness comes, and we see that Genesis 32 and 25 said Jacob remained all by himself, then a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. That messenger came, and the physical aspect still had to be dealt with. The physical aspect, the change in his physical body still had to be dealt with. This man, as we see the messenger, does not overcome him. And you have to think, man, that must have been a great wrestling match. I think the Hebrew connotation of that is that they rolled in the dirt. So it tells us that there was a physical aspect to this. How many people remember as kids rolling in the dirt with your siblings, your cousins getting into a little tussle, and suddenly you're in the dirt and everybody's mad. You're trying to hang on for dear life. Nobody wants to look like the loser. Jacob did not want to lose this match. He wanted to overcome. He wanted to win. He wanted to overcome the physical aspect of it, but thank God there was a spiritual aspect that he was going to get release from. And we look at this in Romans 12 and 2, where it tells us not to be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of our mind, that we may discern what is the will of Yah, what is good and acceptable and perfect, and what are those points leading to in Jacob? Changing who he was and becoming who he had to be. To become Israel, there had to be a major change. This is where there was a collision, there was a battle not only physically, but emotionally, theologically. There was a battle spiritually. And Jacob may not have overcome the messenger may not have overcome Jacob, but we see this moment as a time when that fear meets faith. Suddenly he had an influx of faith that overcame that fear. Our deception, I'm going to say that again, our deception has to meet the truth. What we've told ourselves, not only about Yah, but about ourselves, has to meet the truth. Has to meet who we are according to Yah. Man, we've got to get into that so much. We've got to start believing in ourselves so much more spiritually than I believe that we do. This world takes it away from us. I go back to what we say every Shabbat when we do our liturgy. Love your neighbor as yourself. Yes, that tells us to love our neighbor, but it tells us we have to love ourselves also. And we have to get back to where we have that understanding spiritually. Love your neighbor doesn't mean take them a pie, take them lunch. It means to have compassion for. If you love somebody, you're going to try to do what? You're going to try to lead them to the truth. You're going to try to speak to them about what is right. Separate them also from the world when you can. But we see that when the messenger couldn't overcome, he touched the hip socket and dislocated his hip when he wrestled with him. And I was looking at this and thinking about this. You know, now not only was Jacob going to become Israel, a changed, transformed person, but his physical walk was going to be different. He was going to walk with a limp going forward. He limped away from that encounter. Let me tell you, our walk should change once we have come in contact with the Most High. Once we've had that moment with Yeshua, our walk should change. You may not walk with a limp, but you're going to walk with understanding of the Torah, how it will have you react and act. How you see your fellow man, both believer and unbeliever. How you're going to see a situation and try to cause it to end or try to cause it to be enhanced. There's going to be a difference in how you live and how you walk. And I was looking at this, and you know, our transformation may not give us a limp, but man, it sure ought to give us a physical change. And it really, really has to give us a spiritual change. And with that spiritual change, our actions will become different. We tend to think that a transformation is only about going to church, going to assembly, synagogue, going to prayer meetings, going to the men's group or the women's group, but it's about how we approach the Father. And when we turn from the Father, think about Moshe when he was in the presence of Yah and he came back down and his face shined. They had to cover it with a veil when he spoke to the people. Think about that transformation. Do you imagine that he spoke with more authority? His voice might have been changed. His actions would have been changed. How he answered and gave account and gave judgment righteously amongst the people was changed because of the change that was in him. Same thing with Jacob. We see Jacob now, he commanded that blessing. So he's been marked. He limps now. Excuse me, guys. He's been humbled. Sorry. Minded. He only prevails against the world because of Yah. Nothing else. His blessing in that prayer that we read, in that prayer, he says, I'm unworthy of all the proofs of mercy and all the dependability that you have shown your servant. That one sentence. I deserve nothing. I have nothing aside from what you've done. You are dependable, and you are the Elohim of everything. Without you, I have nothing. I had only a staff, and now I have what you have given me. If we can take that into our everyday life and walk remembering that we have nothing except what Yah gives us. I'm reminded of the underground churches that are in the other countries where people can't outright worship the Father. And even the couple that we had amongst us when they were here, we were at Riverside, maybe here for a few months, that went back to their own country. gosh, I can't call it now. I should have thought about it more. But they went back and they sent us photos. They had set up their own church, their own meeting place. And it was boards on stumps, broken chairs that they were happy to have. They were meeting in the heat. They were meeting in the cold. Whatever the outside temperature was, they were outside, meeting and happy to do it, giving the Father praise with the little bit that they had. We can't be careful how I say this. Now, I'm never careful with how I say things. We can't be satisfied with the temperature in a building that we have, knowing that we have tons of food waiting on us just outside the door, comfortable chairs to sit in. We can't be satisfied with that. We can't go through a day. How many people leave, and don't raise your hand. Don't look away. Don't make eye contact. How many people leave this building every Shabbat and thank God that we have a place to meet? Should we be doing that, coming and going, thanking Him for what He gives us? It's what Jacob finally had to do. He had to come to the realization he had nothing except what the Father gave him. Let's get back to Jacob. I took a turn there that we'll get away from. But we see that Jacob cried out. He said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. How bold. How brave. How many people ever stood in the face of a messenger, of an angel, if you wish, and was bold enough to speak this? I won't let you go unless you bless me. And this is something, I found this in Proverbs 4. It tells us wisdom is supreme. Acquire wisdom. With all your acquisitions, get understanding. Man, we'll pray to the Father. You know, my car's not running right, or I don't feel good today. People on my job are mean to me sometimes. It's debatable who's the meanest on my job some days. The lady at the store, the cashier, was just kind of curt to me. She didn't check me out fast enough. She was slow. The lady in front of me didn't have her checkbook ready. Had to talk about everything, so I couldn't check out on time. God, can you make this better for me? Can you do this for me? Yeah. What should we be asking the Father for? For wisdom. Acquire wisdom. It's supreme. I used to tell Josh when he was a child, I would say, man, wisdom is power. And I was speaking when he was in school, I was speaking about wisdom is power when you get into the working world. But man, in the spiritual world, wisdom is all the power we need. If we have understanding, we'll walk in the correct way. We'll follow the commands. We'll seek the Father in truth. We'll have that spiritual connect. And that is what we're looking for. Acquire wisdom. And that's what Jacob was doing. I'm not going to let you leave until you bless me. Do you think he was asking for more physical blessings? No. Protection. Protection. He'll protect those he loves. If we look a little bit forward, I didn't put the scripture in yet, but it says, leave the vengeance to Yah. It's all His. There's nothing we can do. Nothing we can do. I have confessed before, and I'll confess again. There's one person that I cannot forgive right now, and I still try. Every now and then I think about it. I choose not to forgive yet. It's been 20 years almost, and it drags me down spiritually. But I hold on to that. And I'm praying that one day it'll go away. But I need to understand that when I pray for that supposed enemy, Yah will take over, right? And he may not, as we said before, he may not crush my enemy. He may bless my enemy. I may find that my enemy is more spiritually connected with Yah than I am because I prayed for him to be blessed, hoping that it would heap big coals upon his head, and instead he was given a blessing. Enough about me. Jacob refused to let go of that messenger, and he received wisdom, and he was redefined. Who he was redefined. The messenger said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." Why did he ask him his name? You think the messenger didn't know who he wrestled with? The messenger knew. He wanted Jacob to remember who he was. He wanted Jacob to speak who he had been. And he said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but rather Israel, for you have struggled with Elohim and with men, and you have overcome." Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't just remembering his name, but also what his name meant and what the new name meant.
Yes. Thank you. Do you have insight on the name of Jacob, the meaning? Deceiver and deception. How about that? How about that? Supplanter, I think, is also in that list of what that name means. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Oh. Well, keep an eye on you. He says, "You will no longer be this Jacob. You'll no longer be this supplanter, this deceiver. You will be Israel." He made that change. His identity shifts from what he was to who Yah called him to be. Now that change comes. Did he get taller, more muscular, change his color of hair? Spiritually, he became a new man. And that spiritual man is the one that has to be strengthened to understand who God has called you to be. Man, I tell you, if we had that experience over and over, who recalls the first day, the first time, even the first week that you really knew you had committed yourself to Yah? Who remembers that time? Yeah, it's great, right? Everything's fresh and new, and maybe you haven't gone through a battle yet. Maybe your Esau has not stood to oppose where you are supposed to go, and you're full of fire. You're ready to go. Then you get in your first battle. You start learning adverse religion. You start learning incorrect ways to worship the Father. And you forget who you are supposed to be. Happens quick, doesn't it? We get jaded. We're a jaded people. We get jaded really quick. We forget who we're supposed to be and start remembering who we were. And that's not what Yah has for us. When He changes us, just like Jacob, when He changes us, it's time to move. It's time to change. It's time to put on who you really are. Ephesians 4 says, with respect to your former lifestyle, lay it aside. The old self that was corrupted by deceitful desires. Now, are those spiritual desires also? We're not just talking about physical. We desire our relationship to Yah to be shaped by what's more convenient and easier for us. If you don't believe me, look around at the all of the isms and the religions and all of that's been started by man, not by Yah. That's been started by man, and how they cater to what is best made to keep the seats filled and to keep people coming back. It's a big difference. Sometimes, just sometimes, it's going to be uncomfortable. times we're going to have to be just like Jacob. We're going to have to roll around in the dirt, and when we get up, we're going to be a changed people. We're going to be someone who has taken that transformation and done just like we're told here. Be renewed in the spirit of our mind. These are words we gloss over. Can't tell you how many times I've read this throughout my life. Be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and put on the new self, created to be like Yah in true righteousness and holiness. That change, accept it and do it. It's not just a one-off. It's not just a one-time. We see that the old Jacob lived by manipulation. He hid from conflict. As soon as the time came, he ran from his brother, went as far as he could. He feared Esau, and he used his own strength, his own manipulative power to control outcomes of the situations he might come into. But now that he has become Israel and he has become that new man, he walks with humility. As he approached his brother, what did he do? He bowed to the ground. He faces what he fled from by going right to Esau instead of, he could have skirted around him, maybe gone the other way. He trusts Yah's promises. What did he say? You told me to come back. You're the one who sent me here. Where do we see another picture of that? When Yeshua sent his disciples across the sea, right? He said, go and I'll meet you there tomorrow. They got into a storm and forgot what Yah said, or what Yeshua said. I'll meet you there. You're going to make it there. He didn't say, hey, there's going to be a big storm. You're going to think the waves are going to overtake you. The wind's going to blow you over. He didn't give them that detail. He just said, get in the boat. I'll meet you on the other side. In the middle of the storm, they forgot. They forgot who they were. They forgot they were the chosen ones to be his disciples. And they became scared. Fear overcame them. But we're looking at, excuse me, we're looking at Jacob as he trusted Yah's promises. He said, you brought me, you told me to come. So let's overcome this together. He demonstrates wisdom instead of fear. He sent all of those that belonged to him ahead of him so that Esau would see what his camp was, what it had become. He sent gifts to his brother instead of being afraid of him. And he approaches Esau with courage and with grace. Can you imagine knowing your brother wanted to kill you? And suddenly you're face to face and you don't know as he comes running. It says it ran to him. He ran to him. Fight or flight comes in. Doesn't sound like Jacob was much of a fighter. Instead, he was a CEO of a big company. He knew he could make a situation better by dealing with facts or manipulating. But instead, his brother was running to him. But he stood with courage because he knew Yah promised him. He knew he had given him wisdom over fear. In this, we see that new man already standing. The old man would have left. The old man would have been out of there. It'd have been like, you know what, you can have all these, I'm gone. Maybe that would have been me. I don't know. But we see that this is what Paul is teaching us as either Jew or grafted in Gentile. He's teaching to both. I'm going to say that again because I think it's very important. He's teaching both of us to become that new man, whether you're Jew or Gentile, grafted in Gentile. To become that new man and walk in the same renewal. If you've had that experience, You've had that clash, you've had that battle, you've had that time of rolling around in the dirt. Man, I tell you, sometimes when you make that transformation, you do get dirty. You have to get in and really fight for what you have. This isn't just a Christian thing. This isn't just something that mainstream religion has taken hold of. This renewal is Torah all the way through. It's Torah all the way through. You become someone different. You do, even as we see, let's stop here for a second. Yes. Look at look at that. It's give me 1 second. It's
Hello? Okay.
we
I was
got
just,
you.
they never talk about how, you know how in your family you learn from your father, you learn from your grandfather and all that kind of stuff. His life is very much like Abraham's. Abram went to Abraham. Abraham had
Amen.
to trust in the Father. He had to say, you're going to go over here and I want you to go over there, and he did it, and he was blessed. So we also have to take into account that he was learning from past experiences from his own grandfather too, that he could trust God and his word, and that he
Amen.
would bless him. So just a little thing there, I think, that we never really see in the Bible. They don't ever say, hey, Jacob learned from his grandfather or something like that, but he did.
True.
I think.
Very good.
Here, I'll let you.
Good input. I appreciate that. In this, we start to see that there has to come a time that we redeem the time. We redeem our past. I jumped up into Ephesians 5. This one affects us in our spiritual walk every day because we have to get the old out so the new can come in. We have to push out that is bad so the new goodness can fill us. Ephesians 5, starting at 15, so pay close attention to how you walk, not as unwise people, but as wise. Make the most of your time because the days are evil. 16, this is a Tree of Life version. 16 in King James, kind of the wording kind of comes in better for this part of the teaching. Says, redeem the time because the days are evil. Our days in the past have been evil and we have to overcome that. It says, for this reason, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Jacob had to go back. He couldn't change what he did, but he could redeem that time that was wrong. He could redeem the time that when he stole the blessing from his brother, when he fled from his brother, when he lived in Laban's household, and he left a trail of unresolved wounds. His emotional scars, his brother, his mother, all of those people carried emotional scars from what happened that day. He can't change it, but he's able to redeem it, to take it back, to go back and make it right, I guess is the better way to say it. And at the river Jabbok, Jacob regained the years that the locust, it showed us that he had regained what he had lost, more so, multiple times over. And he steps into a future no longer bound by what he did 20 plus years before that. No longer did he have to succumb to that truth, who he was, because now he's a changed man. And if we look at kind of what redeeming the time means, it's a time that we release ourselves from the emotional and physical bondage of our past. Man, there's things that I've done in my past that I don't even want to remember. There's ways I treated people that if I could find them, man, I would just go back and find a way to apologize, knowing that maybe I couldn't do anything different except show my gratitude for still walking away from a situation and show them that I was humbly ashamed of what I did. But we no longer have to consider who we were. We no longer have to live with that scar or that heartache. We can consider who we are through this magnificent change from light to dark, where Yah has allowed us to come out of the world and be a part of His kingdom. We can, excuse me, we can see this change in the time of redemption that is afforded to us through the one who redeems. Who is our Redeemer? Doesn't Yah say He redeems? And He does so through Yeshua. And that's what we're thankful for. There's no way that through my good deeds, and if I did 1,000 times more good deeds than I do, 1,000,000 times more, if I learned how to speak Hebrew better, if I learned how to guide large audiences, I still couldn't take anyone into the kingdom on my merit. It's up to each and every one to have that moment of change, to have that moment that we see that a sacrifice was given for us, not for us just to still walk in the world, but to take that change, to have that redemption passed on to us so that we can be in the Father's kingdom. Because there's only one who redeems. And it's not me. It's not you. We're here to accept that redemption. This idea of this wisdom that we're to attain, it's not so we can quote more scripture than someone else. It's not that we can suddenly know Hebrew and be fluent. We can impress people with our speech. It's none of that. It's so that we can walk uprightly in the way that Yah would have us walk. That we can have a period in our lives that the goodness we've been given, we can give it back, walking uprightly. And we see this in Jacob. We see his careful walk when he sent gifts ahead to Esau. How hard is it to be mad at somebody if they hand you gifts? It's kind of hard. The first gift may not do it, but the second gift might soften you up a little bit. Maybe they give you new Converse or new shirt. I don't even know any good designers to call, so I'm not good at that. He sends these gifts ahead. He approached with humility. He bowed 7 times going to his brother. He speaks with honor. He calls him my Lord. He doesn't go, hey, angry brother, dude that wants to kill me. He calls him Lord and bows 7 times to the ground, giving him honor over himself. And he chooses reconciliation over self-protection. He could have put his armed men between him and his brother. And he chose instead to show the women, the children, send the gifts ahead, the livestock, instead of his fighting men. Instead of those who would protect him. Why? We just said this. Anybody? Anyone? He was trusting Yah to fight his battle for him. To soften his brother's heart. To change, to let his brother see his change. Yes, ma'am. He chose wisdom. Thank you, Shoshana. He chose wisdom. You got to stay out of my notes, Shoshana. He chose wisdom and protection from Yah. You and I cannot overcome the world through ourselves. Who do we overcome? With. What do we overcome with? Man, I said that all wrong starting out. Anyone? We're overcomers by our testimony. What's our testimony? That we have salvation through Yeshua and reconciliation back to Yahweh through that redemption power that was given. That one Redeemer. I've got several slides. We're gonna move this a little faster. It tells us that Jacob overcame evil with good, right? He sent gifts. He gave obeisance to his brother. He bowed down to him, called him Lord. And we see this in Romans 12. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Somehow, sometimes I'd like to just wipe that one off the board. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. This is a hard one, but it's in there. Live in harmony with one another. Please, Lord, give us that strength. Do not be proud, but associate with the lowly. Be not wise in your own eyes. That's a tough one. Living in harmony is a hard thing to do, even for a few hours. But we have to realize that that's how we overcome. That's what is good for us. We see that he overcame by doing good in the fact that, let's keep reading. Repay no evil for evil. Give thought to what is good in the eyes of all people. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live in shalom or peace with all people. Never take your own revenge, but give room for Yah's wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay. Now, could Jacob had been saying, Lord, I turn the situation over to you. If my brother's going to run and attack me, crush him before he gets here. I don't know. I might have been thinking that. Lord, he's getting closer. Here he comes. He's still at a full run. Now, whether or not he bit his neck or he kissed his neck, I don't know. There's a thought on both ways. I could see biting. I could go, okay, well, I probably deserve that. Jacob may have thought the same thing. Rather, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. Do we want to just not read this? Y'all want to skip 20 and 21? Pass it on. Rather, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him a drink. By doing so, you will heap coals of fire upon his head. Do not overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. And that's exactly what Jacob did. He fed Esau. He blessed Esau. He offers restitution. Here is mine. Take it. Take it all. Esau said, I have plenty. I'm not going to take yours. He sought peace, not victory over his brother. He sought to be at peace with his brother. And that's in our lives, in my life, that time of peace when I can let something go. When I can say, well, you know, I'm just not in control of it. It has to be what it is. I can turn and I can feel the peace building in my spirit. When I know it's not me in charge anyway. Jacob expected death, but what did he get instead? Reconciliation. He had a time there with his brother's camp. They ate together, they talked together, then they parted ways. His brother even said, come and go with us. And he said, you know, I have new children, I have new livestock, and I can't drive them that fast. Maybe we'll see you there. Paraphrase. We'll catch you at the next round. But when we see this, we see Yeshua speaking. When he said, blessed are the peacemakers, he made peace with his brother. That's Matthew 5 and 9. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. And we think that's, I was always taught that's something that Yeshua said, and it just came from Yeshua, but it comes out of Proverbs 25. And Yeshua said, go and be reconciled to your brother. So this is not just something that was for the time. It's not just out of the, we hear Old Testament, it's not just out of the Torah. It's for now. It's absolutely 100% for now. Go and be reconciled. You know, that's sometimes a hard thing to do, to get your sights back fully on family. Understanding that, and even those around you, where Proverbs 25 said, I wanted to go to that, I'm sorry. If your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. for you will heap coals of fire on his head, and Yahweh will reward you. Just another indication that Yeshua didn't come and make up something new. He's quoting from what was written. He's teaching from what was written. Amen. That's right. That's right. He was showing us that before Yeshua taught us this, Jacob did all of these things. Jacob had that in his heart to do, and this is why when we read in Genesis 35, that change. I didn't highlight it, I'm sorry. Give me a second and I'll pull it up. After Esau is reconciled with Jacob, we see that Yah called Jacob to come and go to Bethel, which translates out to house of God, house of Yah. And Jacob immediately commanded his people in 35:2, told his household and not the Gentile that was with him, not the foreigner, the sojourner with him. I'm not going to get rebuttal on that. Jacob said to his household and to everyone who was with him, get rid of the foreign gods that are among you, cleanse or purge yourselves, and change your clothes, because we're going to the house of God. Get up. We're going to Bethel so I can make an altar there to Yah, who answered me in the day of my distress and has been with me in the way that I have gone. This is the 100% the practical working of Ephesians 4. Every bit of that is that whole part of put off the old man, be renewed. Put on the new man, created after God in righteousness and holiness. The new man purges and gets rid of what the old man tolerated. Do we get that? We should get rid of what we have tolerated in the past within our lives, spiritually, physically, our walk, the way we talk, the way we see other people, the way we hear, the way we speak. Should be a change 100%. Can't be just part. I've talked before about when you're out hiking, not that I go hiking, but when you're hiking, if you've got a short shoe on, you might get a little rock in your shoe and it hurts your foot, but you'll shake your foot enough so the rock gets to the side. You don't have to take the shoe off, but it's no longer right up under the soft part of your foot, so you can tolerate it. We do the same thing with sin in our lives. We'll kind of push it to the side. We'll bury it a little bit so we can keep moving on and keep dragging it with us. We'll keep dragging that bondage to sin with us through everything we do, but we have to purge that, get it out of our lives, and not tolerate it any longer. Jacob did this, and it should be in all of us to do this and have that spiritual renewal. And with that spiritual renewal, it should cause us to cleanse our home, to cleanse our heart, and to cleanse the camp. It's about the community too. And if one can start making a change, everyone will start making that change. Why? Because they'll see Yah working through that person. That's our hope when we go out in the world, right? It's good to see you ladies come back in. I hope y'all had a good time. You did an outreach. You went out to teach others what you know and believe, to speak to others, to help someone else, right? You let your light shine while you were there? 100%. Speak of what's in your heart that you believe? 100%. And that's what it is. You could have gone and talked about what you did in the past, how you celebrated this time of year in the past. Or you can speak of what you know and what you love now. And that's how it is with us in a daily situation, that once we've cleaned out all that clutter of the world, then we suddenly start speaking of the goodness of Yah more. We want people to know how we're blessed. We want people to know that we have that peace dwelling within us, that as we come and we face our Esau's, and not only that, but when we're called to give up the things of the world, we can be like Genesis 35:4, where it says they gave Jacob all the foreign gods in their hand and their rings in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak tree near Shechem. Left that burden behind. And that's what we have to do today. We have to give up, excuse me, we have to give up the things of the world, the gods of the world. We talked about what some of the gods of the world are last week. We have to give up those things. We have to be able to move forward and leave them buried. Leave them in your Shechem. Leave them behind. Dig deep. Man, a lot of us would have dirt under our fingernails going back in there to scratch them up and take the gods with us again. And we'd circle that one area because we don't want to get far from our treasure that was in our heart in the past. We have to get rid of that. We can no longer allow that to cause us to be anchored to one place. We've got to go where Yah tells us to go in the belief of who we are, who we have become, and what He will do for us. We have to be unified in this covenant of Yah as one people. One people. Who are we supposed to learn from? Who was set up as a light to the nations? We've got to learn. We have to have that understanding. Just like Jacob. I guess I put a slide in there. So we already talked about it. Jacob told his whole household to get rid of the gods. They did. And we see that they were a unified people under the covenant, obeying, man, one Torah, one rule. Yeshua said, one master, one flock. How about that? You mean we don't have subdivision A and B, Gentile only does, and grafted in believers should follow. And why is that? When we start to apply this to our lives, we see, like Jacob, you and I face these same things. Wow. I need glasses. If we're going to apply this to our life and even our times, I get into so many conversations where people say, well, that's for then. That's not now. That's Old Testament. We all have our Jabbok moment, right? A night when Yah confronts our old living patterns. A time when we have to become true in who we were. We have that new name moment. We're called to step into who Yah says we are, not who we say we were. We have that reconciliation moment. We face what was broken with a redeemed heart. When we have that opportunity to look back at who we were and what Yah's done for us, even in the unbelief that we had, even the times of sin, even in the times of wrongdoing, but we can look back and we can see who we were and who we were redeemed to come. And that heart for Yah, He said He would write His commands where? Man, why? That's the seed of love and compassion. We should love it, love doing it. Do we do it because we fear Yah? Or do we do it out of love? Good catch. Both. We all have this purification moment. We remove what doesn't belong in a life of a covenant obedience. Jacob said, give me all your foreign gods, and the people gave them up. He buried them. We have a redeeming the time moment. Man, we got to quit living as a victim of the past, but as of Israel, Jacob, a people transformed by our encountering of Yah. Transformed by what should change us, what should lead us, what should guide us, and cause us to think, to change, and to move forward. You know, we can always go back. I'll be by myself sometimes, and I'll think of the things I did, who I was, before my final encounter that I knew I had to make a change. And man, some of that will seep back in sometimes. Some of the anger, some of the things that I don't want in my life will try to come back in. I have to push them back and say, no, this is not who I am. I've been called to be a different person. And having that transformation, man, having that transformation is a beautiful thing. Because without it, we're stuck in the world. Without it, we have nothing to gain for our future lives, right? We'll still be living in that shadow instead of living in the fullness of that light and that truth that Yah allows us to have through that Prince of Peace that we are given. I've only got a couple more things here. Because in Messiah, there's only one covenant people. There's only one olive tree to be grafted into. Right? There's many trees out there that people graft themselves into. People will lodge themselves into a religion or a theology, an ideology, all the isms that people get caught up in that just drive me absolutely crazy. They'll allow themselves to be supplanted into the world or planted or grafted into the worldly tree instead of that one olive tree. Guys, there's only one shepherd, the Good Shepherd. There's only one redeemed identity. Are there going to be only Baptist or Pentecostal or Catholic, or is it going to be this in heaven? No. The children of Yah. It's not going to be all these little isms and religions and little ideologies that people have. That's not going to have any play. There's only one. There's one Torah, and it's written on our hearts for us to love it. Don't raise your hand. You're on camera. Corinne does. Why don't we rush to show our love for the Torah in our lives? That we're changed. That we have that redemptive moment. Today, Yah may be asking us the same questions. He may be reaching out to us and wanting to know where our change is. He may be wanting to know what's holding us back. You see, excuse me, having a little trouble talking today. We are all called, whether we're Jew or grafted in Gentile, to walk as Israel did, as Jacob, to make that change, to be that different person, to approach our largest enemy, our largest scary moment with the assurance that Yah is there taking care of it, that through our love of the Torah, through our love of the Father, that we're walking in that peace and that assurance. We're walking in the light of the Torah. We're looking to redeem ourselves through that. But Yah's asking us, if we stop and we listen, He wants to know who we've been. He wants us to remind ourselves that we don't have to be that anymore. He could be asking us, what fears have we carried? Failure, addiction, fear of loss, fear of rejection. What wounds have we allowed to linger too long? Physical, spiritual, emotional? What things hinder us every day in our walk with Him? And what identity is He calling you out of today, calling us out of today? And what identity is He calling you into? He doesn't want you to be who you were. He wants you to be who He has set aside for you to be. He wants you to walk in His truth and His light and be that changed man, to be that Israel. Like Jacob did, we want to cling to Him and say, I'll not let you go until you bless me. And Elohim, who transformed Jacob into Israel, will transform us today into who we were always meant to be. That Torah obedient, kingdom minded people. I love the Aaronic benediction, Yivareka Kadonai Vayishlach. And I kind of put a little change on some of this today. But may the Elohim who redeemed Jacob's time redeem our time. May the Holy One who redeemed Jacob's mind renew our mind. Remember, Ephesians says all of that has to change. May the Holy One who made Jacob Israel establish us in our identity in Messiah, causing us to walk wisely, overcoming evil with good, and shining as covenant keepers who are bound and walking towards His kingdom. Having that mindset, having that thought process. So what is your name today? What is your name today? Who have you become? And who will you remain being? Are we set and bound for His kingdom? Are we searching for Him each and every day? Are we wanting to know in truth who He has made us to become? And walk in that each and every day. We have an opportunity to fail, and we have an opportunity to overcome. I say overcome. Every day. Overcome evil with good. Give to Yah, let Him. Man, that's the hard part, right? Turn it over to Yah. Let Him be the one. But live in His shalom, y'all. Live in His peace. That's all we have. Jacob faced, after he became Israel, he faced his biggest fear, physical fear, his brother. And he did it in grace, wisdom, and with respect to his brother. He bowed to him 7 times and submitted to him, calling him Lord, knowing that his was the birthright truly. But going forward, let us follow this. Let's walk wisely. Let's overcome evil with good, shine as covenant keepers, and continue to walk and go forward to the kingdom of Yah.